Good morning. It is a bright and early starter for us here at the Africa Tourism Indaba. It's the last day of the Africa Tourism Indaba. My name is Fifi Peters. I'm pretty excited and delighted to be here at the Indaba, which is taking place as an in-person event for the first time in 2 years following the lifting of COVID-19 restrictions, of course. I can tell you that the atmosphere so far has been quite a buzz. People quite excited to be meeting each other once again in the flesh, and a bit tired of all the virtual conferencing that has been taking place over the past 2 years. This morning, I can tell you that also the hot topic of conversation is around rebuilding the tourism sector. So several hundred of buyers have been in attendance and are still in attendance at this year's Indaba. These are people from key markets for the African continent in terms of tourism, the UK, the US, Europe, Asia, here to see what the continent has, of course, in store and has on offer for them to take back to their tourists in their countries. There's several sellers also here from South Africa and the rest of the continent just looking to position their cities as a destination of choice, just given the fact that the lockdown restrictions have been removed in most parts of the world and travel and tourism is happening again. But this morning we're focusing specifically on the city of Durban and its tourism offering. One can argue that the city has had it pretty rough in the last 2 years. Beyond the impacts of the pandemic, of course, the city was also the place where we saw the worst civil unrest taking place in South Africa's democratic order that happened in July last year. More recently, we have seen the unfortunate and devastating effects of the flood that has wrecked infrastructure, key roads, key buildings. It has displaced several hundred people also and unfortunately claimed several hundred lives. So it's against this backdrop that we're having this discussion this morning on rebuilding Durban, rebuilding the city, repositioning it as a destination of choice. We'll be speaking to various experts throughout the session this morning, just asking questions around exactly what it is going to take and where the areas of improvement on a local and a national government level are. We look forward to your insights also. Do feel free to comment and join in on the conversation with us on social media. We'll be keeping out for any of the comments that you might have. Feel free to tweet away. But more specifically, let us push on with this morning's program. And I'd like to introduce my first guest this morning. I'd like to welcome Councillor Nkosente Madladla. He's the chairperson of the Governance and Human Capital Portfolio in the eThekwini Municipality. Councillor, good morning, sir.
Good morning, Fifi. How are you?
I'm wonderful. And how are you? Just given the fact that it's the last day of the Tourism Indaba, how are you? How have things been going so far?
No, we are great. It's exciting times for the city and for our people. As you have painted the correct context, that we are hosting this as Durban KZN in the context of at the back foot of the floods that have devastated us, in the context of the civil unrest, in the context of COVID-19 that closed many of our businesses and people lost jobs during that time. As the Indaba, we had to take a hiatus of 2 years without being able to see each other, sell to each other in terms of the tourism and the other businesses. And in the midst of all that, South Africa took a bit of a knock economically. So we are excited that we are back. Africa was here, the world was here, our key markets that we source from were here, save for China, which is still under lockdown.
Sure.
But we're excited that the rest was here, and it's exciting times for Durban.
Exciting indeed, but let's talk about the challenges that you have made reference to. I think that it's challenges that everyone is quite aware of, right? The pandemic, the civil unrest and the flood. So we're hoping for the city's sake that that's rock bottom, that there isn't another catastrophe waiting around the corner, and that the rebuild and bounce back plan can actually really get to work. So let's talk about that bounce back plan. Give us a roadmap of what that looks like.
Thank you very much. I think we have already started. Last week when we had a meeting with the minister to plan for this event, there were lots of skeptics around, are we going to be able to host in the backdrop of the road infrastructure having been washed off, electricity in some areas not being able to be accessed, and all of that. But we said we are resilient people as the people of this city and the people of this province. And this launch is not only this event is going to be a launch of our bounce back. And it's day 3 today, and things have gone on without a hitch, and we are excited, and we think this is the first step that we've taken. Now, what we have done in terms of, as a city, in terms of our preparation for this hosting, is that one, we have said we want to reintroduce ourselves to the international markets as a destination of choice. We were right on our way to that when COVID-19 hit, and we suffered in terms of like everyone else suffered. So we want to go back to the position we were in, and even better it. We want to attract international visitors as part of our strategy, and our source market has always been your US, your Europe, and with a strong focus on Asia, specifically China, because those people travel, and they travel in numbers, and they buy when they travel. Secondly, we said we want to increase and improve on intra-Africa travel. When we started on the first day, we had Hamish was here as part of the panelists to talk about airlift, because for that to happen, you need your airlines to be on board. You need your hoteliers to be on board. I'm glad that part of your panelists here are going to be someone from the hoteliers, because you need that. You need to, if you are going to improve and increase on your tourists, you need to ensure that they will arrive directly to your city, not via other cities. And when they arrive there, hoteliers are ready for them in terms of hospitality, and we have world-class hotels in Durban. Exciting news that will be announced as we move along with the program in terms of what we expect to come in terms of that. Right. So that is the strategy. And locally, what we have done is that we've hosted here in our stand, we had 9 community tourism organizations that the city funds to ensure that they sell their localities as part of a broader mix of our offerings as a city, so that we don't only sell the city center, but we are able to sell all the corners of the city. And therefore, it's a very good mix. We had 9 of them here, and I spoke to a few of them during our walkabout, and they were very excited that they've made connections with some of our international guests here. They've struck deals, they've made meetings, they've made commitments. Some of the people, we were talking to the delegation from Lesotho and Botswana, and they were saying they want to link up with some of the CTOs, because they think that is a strategy that will boost tourism in their own countries as well. So we are very much excited indeed.
No, it has also been quite exciting just to also see the reception from the rest of the market as you do speak about intra-Africa trade. I mean, stands from Zambia, Mozambique, Eswatini, amongst a few that are here, Zimbabwe as well. But all cities around the world right now are looking to attract tourism. So the competition it's pretty rife. And therefore, from what people already know in terms of Durban's existing offering, talk to us about the new developments that you do have in store and when they are likely to start.
Yeah, we, besides the fact that we dwarf other cities in terms of our temperate weather, that we have a summer all year around, which is hardly found anywhere else. So that's our advantage. Sure. 2, as a province, we have the longest coastline. That is temperate, so that's our advantage as well. But in terms of the new developments, what we have done is that we've linked up with the developmental side of the city in terms of your catalytic projects. There are big projects that are going to be opened. First, you remember that we extended the promenade to ensure that the experience when you visit Durban is maximized. We've recently opened the berth for the cruise ships, which then links to the promenade. In that same point waterfront development, we are going to have what is called the Durban Eye. Very soon we'll be unveiling the preferred bidder that is going to then take the project forward. So, and we've invested money as a city into that to prove how serious we are about tourism. Very soon, I'm glad that Mr. Reddy is here. We are going to be opening, in terms of your Umhlanga precinct, we are going to be opening the Oceans Umhlanga. Now, that is a new experience that we are going to have in Durban, because one of the complaints that we used to get from our tourists is that while people come to Durban because of the weather and because of our nice hotels and everything that we have to offer, but there's not much shopping that can be done in terms of exclusive shopping. Now, that development is bringing that as an edge to us, that you can have people from Joburg who are coming here, who are going to then shop. Durban July is coming. Some of the people who will be strutting their stuff there will buy from our
It's going to be in person
shops
as well?
So it's going to, yes, it's going to be in person. As I said, that this is a first step that we are taking. All our events, signature events that the city is known for, are going to be held this year, and they are going to be at the full scale. So it's exciting. Besides the Durban Eye that I've mentioned and the Oceans Umhlanga, we took some of our hosted buyers to some of our, because we are very big on township and peri-urban tourism.
Sure.
So we took them to some of our new offerings. Like if you go up to Inanda, there's a new boutique hotel that is there in the area of Etaflin. And that hotel is world class. I'm sure our hotelier friend here on the panel will agree with us. And we are looking to improve on that, to ensure that when you visit these areas, you are able to also sleep there and enjoy yourself. Some of the panelists who were here were talking about destination weddings. So if we are going to do that, some of them will have to happen in the township. And we are very excited about it.
Quickly, in terms of all the offerings, all the plans you have in store, I mean, we are still cognizant of the fact that we're not fully through this threat called the COVID-19 pandemic. In fact, there's slight talks around the fact that the fifth wave could be near. I imagine that everything that you have spoken about and all those plans will be abiding by the COVID-19 protocols. Just speak briefly to that and how your tourists and travelers will be safe from a COVID-19 perspective.
Thank you very much for asking that. I think the COVID-19 pandemic has taught us a lot of things. One of which is that we need to be responsible hosts, but we also need to encourage responsible traveling. Now, when we are talking about that, we are not only talking about your COVID-19 steps that you should take in terms of being safe, but we are also talking about your environment, that we need to start caring for your environment and ensure that we travel in a responsible way that reduces our carbon footprint and all of that. But in terms of the developments, I must mention that I mentioned areas of the north. In the west, which we want to expand our tourism direction towards, there's a mall that is going to open in the area of Nchongweni. It's one of the biggest developments in that area. And there's going to be short turning soon, because we want to link your tourism with business, and we are looking to expand our footprint in terms of business tourism. And there's no better place than where we are hosted in the ICC, which is a world-class international eventing area, and it has we are ensuring that when we make our bid, ICC is at the center of that, and other venues around the city that are world class, to ensure that we attract business travelers as well.
Sure. So thanks so much for setting the tone for us this morning, just giving us a brief outline on the city of Durban's bounce back plan to revive its tourism industry against the backdrop of severe challenges it has suffered in the recent past. I was in conversation with Councillor Nkosentle Ndladla. He's the chairperson of the Governance and Human Capital Portfolio at the eThekwini Municipality. Made reference of some of the speakers that we will be hearing from in just a short while, the hoteliers such as Radisson. We have got a prominent businessman and property developer in the form of Mr. Vivian Reddy, amongst other speakers that we'll be hearing from after the break, who will also be providing their opinions on the Durban bounce back plan and exactly how and what needs to be done to make it a successful one. So stay with us, be back with you after this very short break. And welcome back. We are coming to you in this special broadcast this morning from the Africa Tourism Indaba, being hosted by the city of Durban. It's a city that is known for having some of the warmest beaches in the world and having several other fantastic tourist sites. But it's also a city that has suffered several setbacks in the past 2 years. Beyond that of the COVID-19 pandemic, we all know of the civil unrest that did take place, as well as the recent flooding. And it's against this backdrop that the city of Durban is hosting this conversation this morning and sharing its plans on its rebuild plans and how it intends on helping it bounce back better and stronger. And so this morning I am pushing on with the program, and I am joined by individuals who've got vested interests in the city and vested interest in ensuring that its tourism revival plan works. I'd like to introduce them to you now as we continue this discussion this morning, starting with the gentleman on my far left, Chifiwa Chibengwa, who is the CEO of the Tourism Business Council of South Africa. He is seated next to Samantha Croft, who is the KZN Director of Operations at Hotel Group at Radisson. It's the largest supplier of rooms here in the city. Also, we're joined by Mr. Vivian Reddy. He's a businessman and property developer, currently busy with quite an interesting project in the form of Oceans Mhlanga. It's a 4 billion rand mixed-use development. We'll be hearing a little bit more about it. And it is also the host of the Radisson Blue Hotel that will soon be coming on stream. We'll be hearing a little bit more about that, as well as seated right next to me, Miss Winele Mtungwa. She's the Deputy Head of Durban Tourism. And good morning to you all. I'd like to just ask opening remarks, just how things have gone so far. As the host, perhaps it is polite to begin with you. I mean, you had expectations, you had vision of how you wanted this event to be. It is the last day that we're having this conversation. Have your expectations been met?
Thank you, Fifi. Absolutely. As the city of Durban, we're very excited that eventually Indaba we were able to host it after the 2 years of not having, being able to host it, and it really had a knock on the tourism sector. Now, with Indaba, coming back, and also the numbers, in terms of the buyers that came, the exhibitors that came, the meetings that have been happening, it's really been a very positive impact for the city of Durban, and also the economic impact thereof in terms of the hotel occupancy. The restaurants are actually buzzing, the job creation in terms of the ecosystem of different businesses within tourism. And this demonstrates states that Durban is always ready, and it's actually an emphasis that we are open for business, because we've been able to host it without hiccups, for the past 2 days here at the Durban ICC complex. And indeed, we are looking forward to actually host much more. And what is really positive is the feedback that we're getting from the buyers, because we've been interacting with them through, virtual, in terms of just keeping that communication and conversation going. And indeed, right now, from as far as the USA, as far as the UK, Africa, Nigeria, different countries in Nigeria. So that for us is really positive. And what is even more positive is that they are going to be staying here, adding 2 days. Yes, Indaba is the last day today, but they're adding a bit more 2 days into their, travel, which actually extends, the impact and positive economic spin that as a city of Durban, we are looking forward to getting from Indaba.
Sure. So positive economic spin. I mean, Vivian, what would you say? Some might have said that just given what has happened recently, resources should have been channeled elsewhere to fixing the infrastructure, the roads, the buildings that have been damaged by the recent flooding. From your perspective, the tourism Indaba, was it a mistake to host it?
Yes, I think the tourism Indaba has come at the right time. When I drove around yesterday in Durban, Slangerocks, it's buzzing. The tourism Indaba is a show of confidence in the city, and it's the best thing could happen.
Sure.
We're actually in depression in this province. You had the riots, you had the floods. 500 people have passed away, and we need, the tourism industry Indaba has really been the medicine we needed to uplift our spirits, and especially the tourism industry. We've taken a beating, and we've seen the figures. And in the midst of it, we are developing a 4.5 billion rand project, and then we got hit with the COVID, and then the unrest, and then the floods. But we decided to persevere, because in life, you never ever give up. And that's what we did. And, we're so great. This Oceans project, which is creating currently about 10,000 jobs, which is really needed in the city. And it's a 250,000 bulk square meter project, which is the largest in South Africa. And during this COVID period and the difficulties we've had, we have opened the Radisson Blue Hotel opens at the end of the month.
Sure.
It's a 650 million investment, 207 rooms, a great facility right in the heart of Umhlanga, but there's 1,500 people being employed. Then we've created a world-class mall. That's something like, it's going to be like Sandton City by the sea, with all the international brands. And what was amazing, I've had some of the top CEOs of the biggest international brands fly into Durban. And even after the unrest, and what they saw in Durban, and maybe we as South Africans don't see in our own cities, the beauty of Durban, the positives. And when foreigners, we as South Africans tend to look at things in a negative light. And we are bringing in, with our international brand, they bring in 500 million rand worth of investments into the mall. I mean, it's a 1.3 billion mall. It's an absolutely unique mall, a very niche mall, which Umhlanga needs. And we're creating also a piazza, a square that Umhlanga and Durban doesn't have, similar to Sandton City. So we are very excited. The Indaba is well needed, and we are going to do things to bring more people into this province.
So through the midst of all the adversity, you have continued to see the opportunity, and you're forging ahead with your plans. Samantha, just your take on Durban as a city and its offering as the largest supplier of rooms, right, in the city. Just how does its tourism proposition presently stack up, just given what has happened in the recent past?
I think as hoteliers, one thing that we've realized is that there's a whole lot of external factors that impact on our business, and there's not much we can do about it. The issues last year with the unrest and obviously the flooding. So for us, it's critical that we work with the city to rebuild. And it's not necessarily just the Indaba. So this year's Indaba, whilst it's created a lot of vibe and excitement and the short-term jobs now, it's actually a long-term investment. So we're going to start reaping the rewards of this week next year, when the buyers are able to start packaging and putting all the products together. So I think we've got a lot of exciting products in Durban. Now we've got to work with the city to get infrastructure right and make sure that, things like keeping our beautiful beaches clean, and just helping to mop up quite quickly so that we can bounce back. I think a lot of us are resilient, and we don't realize how resilient we are, given all the factors that we've had to deal with, which are actually external factors to our business.
Sure. Largely beyond the city's control, but the message there I'm getting is there are elements that the city can take within its control to rebuild and come back a bit stronger. But Chifua, just opening remarks from you, so because you have been quite an active participant at this year's program, involved in quite a number of discussions. Just care to share what has been discussed, what your members are saying about the city of Durban and its proposition as an investment destination and tourist destination of choice?
Well, I think that the province of KZN, and more importantly, the city of Durban, is quite important in the value chain of tourism. And we've been saying over the many years that we need to do more to make sure that the city of Durban is known by everyone in South Africa and the world over, to make sure that we show the beauty, we make sure that we show the capacity that we have here, the products that we have, the experiences. And of course, to make sure that those things that we have are turned into the products that the world can be able to come and see. And of course, for us, when we talk about the tourism recovery, it starts here at home, and Durban plays a very important role in showing us where the recovery is going from the domestic market, and of course from the international market and within the continent. So it's a very important place, within the tourism value chain. There's more that needs to be done. But I think that over the past 2 years and the things that have happened that everyone has spoken about, it showed that this city is resilient. It showed that this city is a place where, if you want to see that, the people that are within the tourism space and the community at large are able to clean up and say, we're going to move ahead, forge ahead, and we're going to be able, to bounce back. I think that's quite important. So we've got to continue with that. And when we look at, Tourism Indaba or the Travel Indaba, we said, well, many people said, should we continue? We said, well, we'll continue. The one thing that we always have to do is to show that, we trust our own value chain, to show that we trust our own government, to show that, there is resilience within the system. And for us, there was no option but to continue and to support the products that are here.
It was a good idea to go ahead with the plan?
Absolutely.
With the Indaba?
It's the best thing that we could have ever done. We were not going to, support anything less than what's going on now. We need to show the world that we're open for business. And this is the place to show the world that we're open for business. So Durban, the right choice, the right decision to continue. And we need to make sure that we continue the same way and also support the SMMEs that are here to make sure that, they can say, well, tourism is back, and they're able to say we can put food on the table.
Sure. But I'd like to just get the private sector's view here, Winentle, if you don't mind, just on the plan, on Durban's plan to revive itself. What do you make of it? And Chifua, where do your members see an opportunity to partner with the city?
Well, we here, as, products and services and experiences, for the tourist. And for us, we look at the city to make sure that the city does what the city needs to do from the public sector side. Let's make sure that the infrastructure is right. Let's make sure that the beaches are clean. Let's make sure that, there's supply of water, there's, electricity, the connectivity, and so forth and so on. Transport and many other things. To make sure that when we bring tourists here, they're able to enjoy what we've promised them. We should always remember that we're competing for the same tourists that any other city is competing for. So we have to make sure that our offering on the ground matches the expectation of tourism. And there's a part that the city plays a role. And I've walked around here in Durban, it's clean. I've seen the beaches, it's clean. It's amazing the work that has been done, because this devastation of the floods was not long time ago. And the fact that we can come here, coming from various provinces, and we can be able to look at the beach and we say, wow, it is clean. And also there's a contribution from the private sector. I've seen many hoteliers, going out in the beaches and cleaning to show that we are committed as a private sector in making sure that the infrastructure is clean. So I do think that the city has a role to play, is playing its role. We will continue to play our role as the private sector, and we'll continue to make sure that in doing so, we encourage the communities around us, we encourage the young people that want to enter the industry, we show them what the industry is made of, we show the resilience. And again, I think it's just a wonderful thing to see this partnership continuing, and we should continue in this way. We should not be telling each other what to do. We should be collaborating and making sure that whatever the city needs to be offering, it's offered.
Sure. Samantha, I mean, in this, the past 2 years, right, it has been difficult for quite a number of businesses. We have seen businesses shut down out of difficulty financially, but we've also seen a turn in sentiment amongst others, just questioning their position in several parts of the country, Durban included. Just talk to us about Tsogo briefly. I mean, you mentioned it, just some of the initiatives in which you are partnering with the city, but just talk to us more broadly about that, and also your own plans as a hotel group in the city. I mean, are you planning to open new hotels? Will the focus be on maintaining the existing establishments, and what is the role of maybe SMEs or even young people to partner with Tsogo in the foreseeable future?
So we already have over 1,500 rooms on the beachfront. So,
Sure.
I
no
think
new hotels opening.
I think we heavily invested in the city. I must say, I don't think there's room for more product. Certainly not hotels in Durban at this stage. So, we are involved in quite a few initiatives. We have some hotels in Umhlanga as well. So there are quite a few of the hoteliers that are involved in their own little precincts. So we are all members of our urban improvement precincts, which clean up the beaches. Just recently we worked with Durban Tourism as well, and we had an activation on the beach which involved beach cleanups, because I think we're going to have to do it a little bit more regularly and not just after floods. But the collaboration is there in terms of the human factor can go and pick up the litter. But when it comes to debris and things like that, we needed the city to get the TLBs onto the beaches because obviously while the debris is there, the beaches are closed because it's not safe to swim. So there are various elements where we are involved in the city, and we have city management on various WhatsApp groups, and they're involved in various initiatives to help us in terms of trying to keep it safe and clean, and they do listen. It's now just time for us to implement some of the ideas that we come up with, because we understand that they've got quite a few areas that they have to focus on, and obviously my biggest interest is the beachfront, because that's where my product is, and the city have got a whole city to look after. So there are various working groups and things that I think we should get together and come up with workable solutions.
All right. Vivian, no more space for new hotels in Samantha's view, but obviously you bringing one, it's been in the pipeline for a long time. But, in that and in your decision to stick with your investments within the city, I imagine that there has been revisions since the original plan was drawn up, just given all the setbacks that have taken place, revisions on when you do expect to realize the return of your investments. Just talk to us about that broadly, and exactly why you have continued to stick it out.
Let me tell you, the Radisson Blue was planned pre-COVID.
Sure.
Big ballroom,
2018,
600.
right?
2018, it was great times. And I'm also involved in Sabaya Casino, and to tell you what's happening in Durban, and that was since the COVID, well, we still got COVID, but what is happening? Conferencing is bouncing back. I mean, we got our Sabaya venue booked out for the next 2 years. And though we haven't opened our Radisson Blue, we've got 26 bookings already for our conference venue, for weddings and functions. And we believe that people are tired of COVID. They want to go out and start living a normal life. They want to meet with families. And we're seeing the uptake. And we're very positive. We believe the Umhlanga node is an exciting node. It's got a great amount of people. The Umhlanga beach has thousands of people coming up there. I mean, we've created 3,200 parking bays in Umslangerocks. Umslangerocks doesn't have parking. We believe it's a big income generator. But also myself, I'm now looking at opening up hotels, and I think it's a right place to do in the urban area, in places like Kwaduguza, Lembe area, that doesn't have hotels. And that's what developers got to do. We got to start looking at creating hotels in areas that don't have hotels, don't have facilities, where people come out there and they got to travel far away. But we are very, very excited. I'm very excited in Province. I know there's 2 new hotels that are going to be opening up in Umslangerocks, and I believe if you create world-class quality and be the best, people will come to you no matter what your prices are, and people will still come to you. I mean, at the Radisson Blue, we're creating massive presidential suites. That's going to be the biggest in South Africa.
Sure.
And people want to ask who's going to stay there. People will stay it. It's the same thing. I mean, I've been talking to the CEOs of the big international brands, and one of the third biggest international brand does 300 million rand a year at one mall in South Africa, just selling high-end clothing. They've seen the biggest increase in international brands in South Africa. There's been a massive increase. If you look at Porsche, Umslangerocks became the best selling dealership in the whole of Middle East and Africa. Durban is buzzing. Durban has got money. Our Sabaya casino is almost back to normal. People are coming back. And we believe there's a lot of money. There's still confidence despite all the negativity. And what we've got to do as developers and the people that are investors in the city, we believe that Durban has got great potential. And there are currently 4,500 homes, not low-cost homes, but homes being built around the Umslanga, Sabaya node. And there are buyers. I mean, we have just sold, we get inquiries for our apartment because we're building 600 apartments. And every week we're selling 10 to 12 apartments. Very expensive, 5 to 6 million rands. And we think people have got great confidence. I'm very confident, I'm very excited in the future of our economy. And I believe that we as developers have got to stay and create jobs. And right now there's about 30 new developments going up in the greater KwaZulu-Natal. And even we've got the Richards Bay industrial zone. There's a lot of things happening. And I'm so glad when I go around and I talk to people that they say they're going to stay here, put the money in this country and rebuild. And
Sure.
That's what we've got to do. We've got to be patriotic, and not lots of people with money are running away, but they've made the money here and they're fleeing. It's wrong. You've got to stay here. You've got to help to rebuild the country. Irrespective of what's wrong, we've got to make it better. And we are the ones that's going to change South Africa, not anyone else. And we've got to put our hands up and put our money into it. And I even call upon the banks to stop being more conservative and support projects. And if the banking system comes on board in a bigger way, we can create jobs, and as business, we can rebuild this country, not government.
Sure. Message taken. And I think that quite a number of people do share your view to say that, you know, when the going gets tough and when the going is tough, don't run away, just stay in the country and rebuild. But unfortunately, there are people and business, Winnie, who are leaving, and it's because the investment case doesn't make sense anymore. And I suppose it's within their right as well from a business decision. There are also people who are on the fence, maybe in doing a lot more business, not only at a national level, but a city level. So your panel members here, just speaking on behalf of business, are quite optimistic. I mean, they are committed to Durban. They see the value proposition. But my question to you is, what is your message to business that is perhaps on the fence, that needs a little bit more convincing around the value proposition and the opportunities that the city has in store for them to partner? What's your message to those people?
Okay, thank you, Fifi. I think in relation to that, position, firstly, I just want to start with the recent situation that we've had of the floods. We didn't expect it. It had never happened before. And we can say we maybe were never as ready as what it would require of us. However, in relation to that would have diluted the confidence. However, the responsiveness of the city in relation to the turnaround, I mean, building or rebuilding infrastructure in 1 week, solid infrastructure
Sure.
to just make sure that the transport system for economic activity actually continues. And also the responsiveness to like big investors, like, companies down in the south, the Toyotas, etc. Because for us as the city, we do realize and understand the contribution that those big companies, make, big investors make to the city as far as rates, etc., and job creation. So it's all about the responsiveness and to actually assure them in relation to reflecting on what we've actually done, to say we are here as the city in terms of when there's investment, where we need to, where there's development, where we need to invest, we actually do. Like in terms of Radisson Blue, when they were a building, we actually contributed towards the bulk infrastructure, millions, So that partnership is a continuation, because when they knock on our doors, we actually listen, because we do understand that they have the ideas. They are the ones that actually, come up with the ideas as business, create the jobs, and we create the enabling environment. So we really assure the ones that are on the fence to say, we are here as government, let us work together, and they will not really regret at all for their money that they put into the city. And for us, just coming back to the Indaba situation, here we are now. There were doubts in the process. However, we have like the whole, captains of industry in the travel industry that are converged here. And we have really lived up to their expectations and really eroded the doubts that other people may have had. And the other thing is to say, with things that are in the pipeline, in as far as, boosting the tourism economy, events, etc. We are actually forging ahead. We are, thinking ahead in terms of making sure that as the city, when these visitors come in, even investors when they come, we are actually, rolling the red carpet for them, and we are actually opening up to putting incentives on the ground so that they are able to, have that attractive value proposition as we offer in the city. So really for us, we are saying we're a very progressive city of Durban, and Durban is indeed the place where investment, is where it has to be, in terms of their preference. That's what we urge them, because we are really a growing economy. We are not allowing ourselves to remain where we are,
Sure.
but we are really forging ahead, and we urge businesses to be with us, and they will really not regret their decision.
Sure. Councillor Madladla was speaking about the importance of intra-Africa travel before we went for a break. And we've seen quite a number of, or a good turnout, I think, from the rest of the continent in terms of their exhibitions that are here within the centre. So how important is regional travel, in your view, to the city of Durban's revival plan?
Okay, maybe just to reflect, in November, we hosted a huge conference, the Intra-Africa Trade.
Sure.
So that on its own, it became a springboard for us in relation to saying, the African countries, in terms of investment, in terms of trade, etc., converging into the city, clinching those deals as a springboard for future, trade transactions. So for us, in terms of the regional travel, it's important, starting from SADC as well as Africa, because we pride ourselves that, one, our positioning is right, in terms of the port, and two, in terms of, the economy of the country. So a lot of, we are actually ahead than, most countries. And in terms of what we are actually urging, because the best practices that they look up to in terms of South Africa and Durban, they actually attract them as well. So in terms of the travel, it becomes important for us because, one, it boosts the economy, and it actually enables us to be able to have more trade transactions happening within the African continent. And that is what we are actually looking forward to. And also the ease of travel, because within the continent, just taking SADC, there's much a better ease of travel, and the traffic that comes in, because most of the countries are actually landlocked, they're inland countries. So for us as the city of Durban, it gives us an advantage because we are coastal.
Sure.
So with the facilities and the aesthetics that we had, the architecture that we have, and the beach tropical, it puts us in an advantage in terms of the African, travelers and investors coming in. And some of them, they're actually coming to invest and build, holiday apartments and their homes within the coastal. So it's not just only travel, but it's also in terms of just coming in and staying longer and bringing business here and continuing to be business people and contributing to the rate of the city. So that becomes very important for us.
Sure. Vivian, the rest of the region, the rest of the continent, as you're looking at your pipeline of orders and who is buying and potential customers that will be shopping from the retail outlet there at Oceans and Mhlanga, how important is the rest of the continent?
One of the reasons when we were thinking about this massive investment, Oceans, we actually did research in the rest of Africa, and we looked at how many people come to Durban, how many people come to Johannesburg, and it's absolutely amazing. And the reason also we picked the Radisson Blue brand, they've got the biggest presence of all hotel groups in the rest of Africa. Sure. And people like that brand. They see the Radisson Blue, they will come to Durban. But what is so important, that there's no international brands, mega international brands elsewhere in Africa except in South Africa. So people from there have a choice to come and shop in Sandton or Cape Town or Durban. But Durban has a very big influx of visitors from outside of South Africa.
Yes.
And most of our tourism comes from Africa. And that is a big sell to us. And we believe, and we see what happens with the flights coming in from Africa, and people can come to Durban and have enjoyed the beach, and now they've got this great international Oceans shopping mall to go to. And the thing about Johannesburg is a great city, but it's a business city. There's no beach, there's no game parks nearby. Yeah, you come into Durban, you just drive up the road, you've got great game parks, and I personally think that the weather is great in Durban. It's not as windy as Cape Town, it's not as cold as Johannesburg. So we've got everything going for tourism in this place. And I want to just say that we are so blessed in this city. We've got a Department of Tourism and Economic Affairs. That department, I invest around the country. They're one of the most effective departments. They are so business friendly. That Oceans development, that 4.5 billion development would not be up and running if it wasn't for the support of the city and largely the Department of Economic Affairs and Tourism. And we're very, very excited. And we're going to be investing more in the city. We've actually planned another 1.5 billion rands, because we believe Durban is the city to be. And
in what?
1.5. We're putting 1.5 billion rands. We're adding a mall. There's more upmarket residential. There's a very big uptake for real upmarket residential. There's a big migration towards the north of Durban. And people wonder, why is there such a big demand for upmarket and places like Mhlanga? But what has happened? In the areas like KwaMashu, Umlazi, Chatsworth and Phoenix, in those areas, families have sacrificed a lot. They even sold the cars and to educate their children. And what has happened now, the kids have gone out and educated themselves. They become professionals and business people. And now they are buying homes for the parents outside those townships in Mhlanga and other areas. So that's rewards the parents. And that is what's happening. We're seeing a large intake of people buying properties and homes in the area, because it's absolutely amazing how the uptake for residential units are in the greater Mhlanga Durban North area.
All right, so the numbers clearly making a whole lot of sense for you in terms of investments and further investments. But Samantha and Chifu, I'd like to maybe speak about the areas of improvement, because I think so far this morning we have just discussed on what is working and what you like about the plan and your level of participation in the plan. But I'd just like to understand where you think there are areas of improvement for the city to crowd in further development, perhaps even at a faster pace. If you had to share one or two areas that you think could be improved, Samantha, what would it be?
I think there's a lot of improvement that we need to do in terms of environmental affairs.
Sure.
I know I spoke about the beach cleanups, and forgive me, the beach is one of our biggest things. But, even in normal circumstances, normal rainfall, we get litter and things that come down the rivers and they end up on the beach. So we need to start looking at the long-term solution, which is further up the rivers. What do we do with that waste so that the rivers aren't polluted, therefore the sea is not polluted? So I think that needs to be a focus area. Obviously, the city's got a lot to focus on now after the recent floods, and maybe this is not a top priority right now, but it is something that we have to look at in the future. And then as an industry, and I think Chifiso and I spoke about it during this Indaba, to say we need to, we're very good as South Africans in terms of standards and making sure that products comply to international standards. But I think it's also time for us to relook at that and to see if certain things that are expected in hotel rooms and services are still relevant, because there's some things that we've been doing, that we currently do, that we've been doing for 70 years. They might not be relevant anymore. Things like a directory of services in a room. When last did you, when you stayed in a bedroom, did you actually open that directory of services to see where you can find a florist? And no one does it anymore. You look at the in-room dining menu, yes. Yeah. But the rest, everyone knows dial 9 for switchboard. So those kind of things are not really necessary anymore.
Well, I think that, we've got to improve on making sure that our cities are smart cities. We've got to digitalize.
Sure.
We've got to make sure that, when tourists arrive here, they're arriving at a smart city where they can use their phones to do many things that they need to do within the city. So there has to be that connectivity and digitalization that, the city itself needs to focus on. I'm sure there's a strategy, but how do we implement it and how do we make sure that it's being used? Number 2, we need to get more airlines coming to Durban. We have to make sure that there is connectivity between Durban and the African continent and the rest of the world. So we've got to improve the airlift to make sure that there are more direct flights that are coming in. The other part of this is to make sure that, in something that may not be the city competency, we've got to make sure that, when we build this connectivity, we make sure that there's ease of travel. We've got to make sure there are visas, and that's something that we're going to do from international, improve our visa regime, and many other things. But locally, we've got to make sure that when people arrive, the roads don't have too many potholes. We've got to deal with that situation. We've got to rebuild the infrastructure that has been damaged. We've got to make sure that the issues of environment that Samantha has spoken about are dealt with. Cleanliness is important, and more importantly, the tourist wants to feel safe, and the city, has, the metropolis that needs to make sure that the areas around the cities are safe. Tourists can be able to walk around, and if we do that, we should be able to impact more smaller businesses beyond, the beachfront to other areas of the city. So those are some of the things that I believe that the city needs to focus on to make sure that, when we go out there in the world, and when Durban Tourism go out there in the world, when we market, we're not faced with, the difficulties of converting a person who's interested in traveling and the situation that we have on the ground. The last part, the city has to put more money on Durban Tourism so that there can be more marketing, there can be more branding, there can be more visibility. We need to see more adverts about Durban. We need to see a healthy competition between Durban and other major cities, here in South Africa. So more money from the city to the Durban tourism is needed, in my opinion.
More money in a very constrained environment, is that likely, in your view?
I think it's about prioritization, because while in terms of tourism, it's not a tangible, it's a service. However, the returns from tourism, because when hotels are full, it's money into the city. When there's travelers coming, there's a circular flow of income within the city. The businesses are buzzing, the restaurants are buzzing, the different activities. Look now at Indaba,
sure.
What is happening. And look, imagine the spin-offs that are actually going to be happening. And indeed, we really appreciate the advocacy that is coming from business in as far as destination promotion is concerned, because really tourism contributes massively to the economy of the city. And so it's very important for us to really have the resources to be able to execute what needs to be executed. And then coming back to some of the elements that they've highlighted, talking about, access.
Sure.
We are happy that so far, within the recovery, we've actually, as part of the recovery process, we've been able to have, the direct flights, coming back. In February we had the airlink, from Namibia. So for us, it's exciting. And through the Routes Development Committee, we are really having conversations. But coming back to the budget issue, when you have these engagements with airlines, it's not just an engagement without some financial injection, because there has to be that investment, from a two-way, and also investing into sustaining the route, because for the airline to be sustainable, there has to be destination promotion and there has to be bums on the seats of the airline.
Sure.
So it becomes a ripple effect in relation to what the resources are for to enable the massive and maximum, marketing or promotion of the destination.
All right. Okay. No, point taken. Lastly, last word to you, sir. Just regarding areas of improvement, it has been shared by Samantha and Chifua. You have come across as perhaps the most excited business person to be doing business in Durban. You're dropping billions and billions, but areas of improvement for more business people such as yourself to participate in the rebuild plan.
Absolutely. And before I come back there, let me tell you what is one of the shortcomings of Durban. In Durban, we don't have enough top quality international restaurants. And what we've done at Oceans, we brought some of the best restaurants in Johannesburg, some of the big names, because most of the people from Johannesburg, that come to Durban are from Johannesburg. And, restaurants are familiar names. And when you come to the Oceans Mall, you'll see some of the finest restaurants, the big name restaurants. And we believe that's also a part of tourism and bringing people in. And coming back to the question you asked about more areas, we believe that there's lots of opportunities here in Durban to create. We've got to start being more creative about the tourism. It's not all about hotels. It's about theme parks. It's about entertainment. We've got to do that. And it's very, very important that we've got to introduce high-tech entertainment. Like a call made about... you don't have these menus and, maybe the menus, all your displays in the in a book in a hotel room. I mean, at the Radisson, you're going to find it all on the TV screens, on your phone when you enter.
Sure.
And that's what people are looking, and that's what we've got to do. As an industry, in the whole society, we've really got to start being high-tech. We should really start changing the way we're doing work, because too many of our businesses are stuck with old technology. It's the new technology that's going to work. It's a new technology that's going to make us success. And also what's happened, we've got to have more confidence. We've got to be brave in our decisions. We tend to overthink about things before we make decisions. Becoming an entrepreneur and making decisions about thinking about now, the current circumstances, taking the big plunge, and never be fearful for your investments. Have confidence. You've got to go out there. If it's not working, fix it up. Get people to fix it up, and that's what you've got to do. And that is how we've got to grow this province and the economy.
All right. So we love the international brands. We love the luxurious offerings. But for locals who are hearing you and thinking, where can they play a role? What's your message? What's your message to local brands?
Absolutely. In our brand, we've got a lot of the local brands, South African, but more importantly, we're even creating place for traders. We're spending millions of rands with the city, where the traders, craftsmen, the small businesses can survive. And what is so good in our mall? We've got 70% of our occupants in there are black South Africans as tenants. In the hotel, I've got 23,000 ordinary black shareholders that own shares there. They own 30%. We've offered the shares. I mean, recently I was in a hotel in Johannesburg, and an old gentleman came to me, and he came and shook my hand, and he said, "Thank you very much." I said, "What for?" He said, "I worked for 40 years in the hotel industry, and now I'm a shareholder in your Radisson Blue Hotel. It's a 5-star hotel." And he was so proud. He showed me a picture of his share certificate in his home. And I said, "How much did you invest?" And he said, 5,000 rands. But it was like 5 billion rands to him, the joy. And that's what we want to do. We want to give ordinary working class people the joy of having ownership in world-class projects. And that's what's exciting about the Radisson Blue, that it offers everything.
Sure.
To all South Africans.
Yeah, because that will be a very important element. I mean, in the revival, it needs to be one that is inclusive of a whole lot of people in this country, to not shake up any further social tensions that we have seen in our recent past as a result of too many people being left outside the broader economic value chain. And I appreciate the comments also regarding the resiliency. Durban caught off guard in terms of the floods, but it certainly made us relook how we do come back stronger, just given the fact that there is a consensus that the flooding that we did see, I mean, perhaps it's not the last of it just yet, given the heightened risks of climate change. But with that said, I'd like to thank you. Thank you all for your comments and participation this morning. We are wrapping up the discussion here at the Africa Tourism Indaba, focused squarely on the city of Durban and its rebuild plan. General consensus is that Durban still has so much to offer. The value proposition is largely intact despite the setbacks in the city, quite ambitious to ensure that it is still and it remains and reclaims its position as the destination of choice for travelers all over the world. But I was in conversation with Winentle Mtungwa, the deputy head of Durban Tourism, as well as Vivian Reddy, businessman and property developer. We also had Samantha Croft, the KZN Director of Operations at Tsogosan, as well as Chifuwe Chibengwa, the CEO of the Tourism Business Council of South Africa. And with that said, I'd like to thank you for tuning in and looking forward to more conversations about a critical sector, the tourism sector here in South Africa, and how to restore it to its former glory. But for us, for now, it's goodbye.